Hello everyone, welcome back to the Only Way We Knew's Father and Daughter podcast with myself, Ria.
And myself, Mem, the father of Ria and co-creators of The Only Way We Knew, a crime psychological thriller based on true events. Coming at ya. We're getting to some good points in it at the moment. Let's just see how it goes.
We hope you enjoyed our last podcast. We gave you a bit of an update on where we're at with everything, what we've been up to and so forth, but we are back to talking about some really great topics that need to be spoken about, really. So we'll get straight into it. Today's subject.
Do you want to say it or shall I? You say it. Go on, you bang on and on, you go on.
All right, I bang on and I bang on and I go on.
You bang on, bang on.
So today's subject, as I mentioned in the last podcast, there are still some subjects we haven't covered that are heavily in relation to our book. And we're going to be speaking about one of them today. It's one of these podcasts that we haven't put off. It's definitely been up there for us to speak about this subject. But we have been waiting for the right moment, haven't we? And that subject is mental health. So it is a really prominent subject in the book. In what way, you will find out when you read it. But today we're just going to touch on mental health as a whole, speak about a few things regarding mental health, because it is such a big thing in today's world, isn't it? And I think even back in the days, it's a big thing, but the awareness of mental health altogether has become so much more pronounced in today's world that, you know, it affects 1 in 4 people at some point throughout their life in the UK.
I mean, that's what they say.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think that's true.
What do you think it's more
I
like?
think it affects everyone in one way or another. It might not be a severe form where they feel like, they need to be diagnosed. You do have, old school people that just see it as a cloud. But yeah, you saying 1 in 4 people have had it throughout their lives. I think everyone is somehow, somewhere, at some time, embraced or gone through some sort of uncontrollable mental struggle. And I think if they haven't or there isn't, I think that is going to be an unbelievable. I don't even understand how that person would have been.
I don't know if that statistic is based off of people
that
who have been diagnosed.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, if they go by clinically according to their records and stuff, like this is how many people, out of X amount have been diagnosed with a mental health problem at some point. But yeah, that's just what it says. I personally feel like everyone does at some point, whether themselves self-diagnose it as a mental health struggle at the time. I don't know, because it will lead into another question that we have throughout this podcast.
I think a change in life. When people have a change in life, someone goes, from being unhealthy to being healthy.
Yeah.
I think there was a mental health issue there initially that made them change. Do you know what I mean? They were battling.
Yeah.
You know what? When's it going to happen? They never just sort of woke up in the morning and went, oh, right, I'm going to join the gym or I'm going to change a job or I'm going to change my relationship.
There's reasoning behind it.
Yeah. This thing is a thing that's, you give it time to mature. Is my thoughts what I'm thinking? Is my thoughts what I'm thinking? Is it just fabricated or is it just a short-term thing? Am I going to let it see how time goes? Do I still feel the same way? The way I'm feeling is unhappy, in myself, in my relationship, in my job, in the country I live in, where I live, the financial situations. So there's loads of reasons why people could be battling against themselves, and if people don't tend to make changes, they can end up developing and become more severe. So that's why I feel like everyone in some way, shape or form has encountered it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A change in life is where someone can't take it no more. I need to make the change. Yeah, do you know what I mean by that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, I do feel like there are levels to mental health issues.
Yeah.
You're right there.
Go on, no. Go on.
So obviously you've got, we'll just list a few of them. You've got common ones, not so common ones. But we've obviously got the obvious depression, anxiety, you've got paranoia, ADHD, autism, even as far as eating disorders. There's PTSD,
Anxiety,
schizophrenia, personality disorders, bipolar, self-harm.
There's loads. And
there are loads, yeah. And
loads.
I do believe that they are on a ladder. Do you get what I mean? Of severity.
Yeah.
But obviously each one of them come with their own individual struggles, and often some of them go hand in hand with other things. Like often somebody that suffers with depression won't just suffer with depression. They will suffer with depression and anxiety. Somebody who suffers with anxiety will also maybe suffer with paranoia. And it just kind of is hand in hand with certain situations. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, depending what sort of environment they're in, and how severe it is as well.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Their surroundings is very important. Our surroundings is important. You know, it keeps you sane. It keeps you grounded. You know, it keeps you in control of your thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you are right. They do like brother and sister. They do marry with each other. Yeah.
So, do you want to tell the viewers, without going into crazy detail, how mental health is linked with our book?
Yeah.
So obviously we don't want to spoil it, but
no, I won't spoil it. But what I'll do is just break it down. I mean, I can only, in the book where we've written what we've written, I can only talk about my experience,
of course,
of how I was growing up and how going through certain stages, not realizing that I did have I didn't know I had a mental issue. I didn't know I was suffering from these symptoms until I had made changes and looked back. It did come to a stage where I was in turmoil in my head, and you don't realize at that time, you don't think it's you think it's everything else. And I battled for many years like that, and it made me dwell in alcohol, narcotics, drugs. There's a lot of escapism from my reality of my life, and how it stemmed from being a child. You know what I mean? It stemmed from only until I look back and thought, why was I like this? You start to realise, and I do go into detail with it in the book. Like, I literally go down into word. I go back to certain situations and scenarios, and why was I like that? Why did I
your
feel
own
like
self-analysis?
Yeah, like we spoke about when you turned around and said I suffered from OCD. Was it OCD?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a perfect example when you just told me that day. It clarified, like, why wasn't that around when I was a kid? Why didn't someone turn around and tell me that I was suffering from that as a child?
Yeah.
You know, but they didn't. You know, so, but you're telling me about the book, so even with the book, when I look into it, and we was writing, you know, I speak about my dad. Now, no one diagnosed him with a mental illness. Certain families will probably say he never did have a mental illness. But him being my dad and me being beside him quite a lot, for my dad to be an alcoholic, which I believe he was, did he have a mental illness? Is alcoholism a mental illness? Do you get what I'm trying to say? I know it's an addiction.
Yeah.
But is it part of a mental illness as well? So I can only I've only written down what I have experienced and what I see. And as well as that, you know, the whole book itself is is a huge triangle of trying to battle between mentally, physically, psychologically, and financially, you know. Um, and that's where there's a triangle where you just keep bouncing off each side, and you literally end up going round from a triangle into a circle, and it just goes round and round and round, and just like the clock, it goes round and time keeps passing, and you think everything is going to be okay. This is what you keep thinking. You feel like you're going to come out of it,
and
you don't. And that's how the book has got, what I've got in the book, how intense it is with mental health. And the reality of it is this is what I feel like is beautiful about the book. I don't tell you I've got a mental health issue in the book. You're going to read it and you're going to go, he's got a mental health issue. You're going to diagnose me when you read this book. Did you get what I mean by that? And that's what I felt was beautiful when we did write the book. It made me look back on it and say, raw. There was problems. You know what I mean? Like my whole thought patterns and the sustainedness of it all. Do you get what I mean?
For sure.
We've had warm weather, and there's a couple of mosquitoes in here that I do not want to get bitten by them. All right.
So I'm punching them in the air.
How did that sound to you? What I said?
Yeah, completely.
Did it sound about right?
Yeah.
When you edit the book and that? Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like the narrative in which the book is told from, you obviously open up deeply into the book about, you know, your certain internal struggles, the struggles that were shown like on the outside. Whereas when it came to your dad, my granddad, it was more from an outside perspective. It was never, you know, in his words, his own problems of what he, you know, you were very self-aware. It took you many years to establish that, okay, as a child, you suffered with certain mental struggles. And then as an adult, for whatever reason, again, you suffered with whatever mental struggles. But obviously your dad was a bit of a different story. And I think it's interesting because not just your dad specifically, but I think when you look at your dad's generation, so probably people who are now currently in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, I think that kind of generation, there's a very big stigma and lack of education surrounding mental health. I know this because when you do in fact speak to people from those generations, you know, part of them doesn't understand the severity of mental health problems you can have. I know some people don't believe in depression. Some people, you know, everyone's got their own opinion of it. So I know that back in the days, there must have been a hell of a lot of either undiagnosed, you know, people with mental health issues, and also a really great portion of people that, you know, later on in their life, these issues have kind of come to the surface without a greater understanding of what issues they may have had when they were younger. So why do you feel like that was the case in a sense? Like, do you feel like people back in the days just kind of got on with it? Do you feel like today, because I know it sounds a bit funny, but one of my opinions, I feel like sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes being unaware of a diagnosis, or, you know, like that day when I'm like to you, oh, it sounds like you've got OCD. Yeah. Sometimes being aware of something kind of amplifies it. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. You know, like feeling down and then someone telling you, oh, you're clinically depressed. Shit, I'm depressed. This I'm depressed. Like, it can work one way or the other. For some people, it's like clarity. You know, like, okay, this is the answer to why I'm feeling this way. You know, now I know what it is. And other people, I feel like it can be taken the wrong way. Like, shit, I've got depression. That means I'm in a dark hole. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
It's understanding it.
Yeah. So do you feel like it was, obviously, you know, it wasn't as big as what it is today, the whole awareness of mental health. But why do you think that is like that compared to back in the day?
I think a lot of it is down to research. I think a lot of it is down to. So you got to remember now, in the last, say, I don't know, 50 years, things are different.
Yeah.
So as much as we're gonna have like sort of like UK research, we can instantly now in the last 50 years or say, 50 years, the last 50 years, we can honestly say we don't have UK research. We have world research that comes together and gives an overall diagnosis. Like they can look at certain countries and go, what's going on there?
Demographics.
What's going on here? What's going on in that country? And they can actually work out certain things. People that have had like PTSD after big traumas such as wars and earthquakes and this, and you know what I'm trying to say. So they can work out that no, people are suffering from this.
Yeah.
People that have had babies end up suffering this certain thing. They know it ain't just from say Lewisham Hospital or Guy's Hospital. It's actually from a lot of hospitals. People that are diagnosed with say they've ended up with mental illnesses because of drugs, alcohol, stress, diet, just conditions, So what they do is end up building up a load of information. They bring it together and it gives them an understanding of this is what's going on, and let's start labeling it. Let's start giving it a name. Let's start giving it its anxiety. What its anxiety is, I feel empty. I feel this. You know what? It's anxiety. They feel it here and there. So as soon as that starts coming together, and a GP can turn it, not GP or a researcher, scientist, professor, turns around and says, no, we now know that 15% of people that have done this suffer from this feeling, which we call anxiety.
Yeah.
People feel like this. They suffer from insomnia. They don't sleep. They don't. So certain people can't sleep. We're going to call that insomnia. And so what they do is they now
categorize it.
Yeah. So like now, then they didn't have that. They didn't have that research. They didn't have them diagnoses. They didn't have, and that's why if you didn't have it, and these people are feeling a certain way. And you got to remember as well, life back then was different. It isn't like today where you are on a computer, you can work from home. You understand what I mean? Back then it was more manual work. So people were out early in the morning working, and they were very stimulated, manually stimulated. So then they come home very, very tired. They'd eat. The day was done. They fall asleep. So they were very mechanical back then. Do you get what I mean? It's not like today where, we have these rules about working from 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. It wasn't like that back then. They worked from 9 till 9, Sunday to Sunday. So there was no time for a mental health issue
in between
for them to sit there and think about it. I'm not saying that's what happened to everyone, but that is what I believe was a lot of the theory back then. So when you say they thought it was stigma, they did think it was stigma because it never existed back then. So when they say, oh, this is a new thing, I can understand it. But the reality of it was the research wasn't back then.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about mental health issues. It was about cancers. It was about other illnesses that were relating to the body, not just mentally, physically, that we know about today that we didn't know back then neither. So that's what I believe is the reason why back then the older generation thought it was taboo. Yeah. It was just, this is a new thing. It's an excuse. But it's not. It's not.
I hear you. Obviously, we spoke about how there is like a ladder, a spectrum with mental health. Some are more severe than others. I think it goes without saying that certain mental health issues, once you've kind of dabbled into it and your brain's gone there, it's very, very hard for you to come back. I'm talking about, like, for example, schizophrenia, psychosis, anything that's an altered state of reality. It's quite hard for you to come back from those kind of places. But obviously, other mental health issues that there are.
See, when you say it's hard to come back from there,
Yeah.
what do you mean it's hard to come back from there? What do you mean by that, if you don't mind me saying that?
What I mean by that is, obviously, say, those kind of mental health issues, they are an altered perception of reality. You know, you are under the impression in your full belief, conviction, that you can hear something that's not there. You can see something that's not there.
Okay.
You know, the paranoia that comes with it, the whole, you know, like...
So you're on about going in and not coming out, or going in and coming out?
Yeah. So I'm on about, like, you know...
Someone who's got severe schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, someone who's got severe anxiety, someone who's got severe depression, or whatever one of these things is, these illnesses are, that they have this on a day-to-day basis for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
Is that okay, I understand that. I thought you meant like an episode.
No.
Okay.
Because we did in fact have this conversation, didn't we, with Mum? We'll get into why we were speaking about that, but she was saying, like, a schizophrenic person, if they have one episode, get the appropriate treatment, get seen to and treated as soon as possible, the likelihood that they can come back from that and not experience that again with the right treatment, medication or whatever is quite high. However, if you have more than one schizophrenic episode, the likelihood of you experiencing them again and again is a lot higher.
Yes and no.
So you disagree with what Mum said?
Yeah, because that day when we was in the car, I agreed with her and I disagreed with her.
Okay.
And the reason why I agree and I disagree with her is I'll give you a scenario. Everyone is different and everyone responds differently to medication. And so I'll give you an example. So we talk about depression and we talk about bipolar. It's very easy to diagnose depression, is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
But it's not. And this is the problem that we have. So everyone turns around and says, I was depressed, just give them some antidepressants, they'll be all right. So with literally any other illness, it takes time to diagnose it. There's a procedure to it. So if we look at bipolar, I'm going to get it. If we look at... No, you missed him. I think I got him. Yeah, I got him.
Okay.
Okay, so if you look at bipolar, how long do you think it takes for bipolar to be recognised as an illness, to be diagnosed with bipolar?
Well, what I know from experience, not personally, but seeing other people and their journeys with it, a lot of the time they're misdiagnosed.
Right, I'm asking you a question.
Let me answer it.
Because you're going to creep into you and then forget about me.
No, I'm not. It's not creeping into me.
Right,
no, but you're asking me a question.
Okay, go on.
So I know sometimes it can be a matter of going round the houses. Sometimes there's a lot of screenings that need to be done. A lot of, I wouldn't say therapy, but questions and tests. And there's a lot of things that go into it. Maybe trials on medication and so forth. But yeah, I know it's not as simple as, hi, let's have a chat. You've got bipolar. Same with like ADHD and so forth. But yeah.
Okay, so bipolar takes around about 6 years to diagnose. Problem is that the initial symptoms of bipolar is depression. You kind of obviously understand where doctors will stand and say, look, we've got to give them that to figure out if it's not that on this, that and the other. So they start actually ticking boxes and
they don't
understand.
Want to class it as such a big, something more bigger than if it's just the one thing.
Yeah, they just want to put something aside of it's that. But a lot of the problem is that if you do suffer from bipolar initially from the beginning and you've got depression symptoms and they give you antidepressants, it actually makes it worse. Okay. So what it does, it makes you erratic. It makes you erratic. It makes you other symptoms. What happens is you go back to the doctor and the doctor turns around and it gives you different antidepressants. That makes you even worse. So if it makes you worse and you're getting more depressed, what happens? So you actually building up this thing until actually, you're going to go round the roundabouts until they actually diagnose you with bipolar. So what I'm actually trying to say by that is that, yeah, you are right. If we hit schizophrenia early in the butt, is it by medication? Is it by therapy? Is it by counselling? You know, is it by a lot of things? It isn't just about, you got to remember these things are triggered, you know? So you've got to be able to condition yourself to be in an environment that keeps this at bay.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
No.
That's not easy. But if you do, you can. All right. So if you have one episode of schizophrenia and you have the right treatment, and then you have another episode, is it that the medication's not working? Is it that, you understand what I mean? Is it that things need to be tuned in? Because the reality of it is that us as humans, I know it sounds really silly what I'm going to tell you right now. Have we all got schizophrenia? Have we all got depression? Have we all got anxiety and all the rest of this stuff that we talk about? But we're taught not to have it from very, very young. And these are all just primal instincts that we should have if we wasn't living the life that we live now. Did you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. See, but like, okay, your point prior to what you've just said.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I feel like depression, anxiety, even paranoia, just paranoia. So not schizophrenic paranoia, like paranoid schizophrenic, just paranoia. I feel like there are treatments and lifestyle changes that you can make that make you manage this. Yeah. So even if you take away medication, I'm not talking about taking something to, you know, I'm talking about either cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure therapy, lifestyle changes, wellness, eating healthy, working out, journaling, practicing gratitude, meditation. There are a lot of things that you can do voluntarily without the help of medication or anything along those lines that could shift that mental state. Right? I don't believe with a chronic illness like schizophrenia, those things help. That's my opinion. Okay. I don't think if you get diagnosed with schizophrenia, you are going to have the mental capacity to wake up in the morning and decide, today I'm going to the gym. No, today I'm going to journal.
I understand what you mean.
Today I need to change. I need to make some lifestyle changes to help better myself. You know, I need to practice gratitude. No, I don't think that's the case. I think the only cure for a schizophrenia, it's not even cure, it's management, is medication. So I think what Mum said is correct, because I feel like there is no confusion when it comes to schizophrenia. If you hear voices and you see things that are not there, and you are under this belief, you know, because if you notice, people with schizophrenia often all say the same thing. Yeah. You know, it's conspiracy theories, the government, aliens, all of these things that are a cluster. We've spoken about this previously. Yeah. All of that.
They lose sense of reality.
Yeah, there is no misdiagnosis. Oh, I'm seeing vampires. Okay, you've got bipolar. No, it's clear as day you have some form of schizophrenia, whether it's paranoid schizophrenia or schizoid affective disorder, whatever it is. So I disagree with what you said, just because for me to sit there and think of a schizophrenic person to try any other solution other than trying to get the correct treatment by medication, I don't see the solution. So if somebody has had a schizophrenic episode, I do believe it's, you know, I think it's the professional's duty of care to provide that person with the correct treatment being medication. Therefore, you know, it should get dealt with. I do believe, you know, some people get sectioned. Some people need to be in that environment, like you said, where, you know, they could be a danger to people. They could be a danger to themselves. Whatever it may be. But yeah, I do believe that sometimes once someone has gone down that rabbit hole, it's very hard to come out of that. You can attempt to manage it, but unlike depression and like anxiety, I don't believe you can get a great quality of life with a condition like such. I mean, I see on social media people who suffer with schizophrenia, and you know, they're going about their day, they're going about their life. I don't know to what severity their schizophrenia is at. I don't know how long they've had it for, how long they've been under control management with it. But through, you know, without going into detail, but we've obviously had, you know, someone we know of or whatever it may be, that certain things have happened or whatever. And yeah, it is hard for you to imagine them to get better by that. Do you get where I'm trying to come from? I'm a bit vague with that, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're saying. You know, I've got one of my clients. He's an amazing guy. He's actually reading the book right now. He's actually an amazing film director, and he suffers from schizophrenia. He's been sectioned 2 or 3 times now, and he's told me he's very open with it. He tells me, I love to talk about it, I love to know that, and he says to me, Mem, I need my meds, I need my calmness, and I need my sleep. If I have that, I'm okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm okay. Yeah, I do get the odd do going around, but I've learnt to realise it's like having an itch.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? And if I just leave it alone, it will leave me alone. But once in a while, it comes back and says hi to me. And no, you are right. Okay. I don't think it's something that just disappears because you feel like you've changed your diet. I feel like it's something that has to be managed, accepted. Very important, and treated the right way. And the fella that I'm talking about, I won't say his name. He's been to like most expensive therapy, psychiatrists. He's been to the cheapest ones, and he just says, I go through these stages, and I ask him, "Are you okay?" And he always says, "I'm all right. I'm still." I said his name. Shit.
I'll beep it out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Will ya?
Yeah.
Please beep it out. Damn.
Don't worry.
Oh, right. Yeah, and he says, you know, I'm still him. And
You're such a twat.
Shit. I won't mention his name.
You're doing well, innit?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah. So, you know, but it's a crazy one because even though we talk about this and like, you know, someone that I know, whatever, you know, I just look outside my window sometimes at work and, you know, you just see the normal person walking past your shop, going to work or going to school on their daily basis. And then you have a herd of people that seem to be struggling mentally.
Yeah.
Then you can see them. They go into the 999 club across the road. You know, they're not all got cans of beer or smoking crack. No, some of them are just like homeless and they've got addictions, or just not even that. They've got mental issues. You understand what I mean? And they can't sustain anything. That's why they like to be homeless. You know, don't want responsibility. They don't want to be tied to anything. They just don't want. They just don't want to be it. And it's amazing when you look at how many people are affected by it. You know, I look at just my general clients that come in, and these people have jobs. These people are the ones that walk past with a briefcase, and they struggle with mental illnesses as well. It's not always happening to the poor and the people that are left without. It's happening for the rich and the ones with all. You know, they've got different types of mental. That's why, you know, the ones that we talk about, you know, depression, anxiety, whatever you want to talk about, PTSD, ADHD, it can happen to anyone, absolutely anyone, you know. And that's why, like, sometimes when we look at certain people, you know, some people mark them. Do you get what I mean? And I don't think anyone with any mental health issue. And just like what I mentioned earlier, when you gave me the ratio of 4-1, I was like, no, 1 in 4. I was like, nah, everyone suffers from it, you know. So everyone has a story, you know, and that's why, you know, look, at the end of the day, you know, I look at what's going on in the world today, you know, and, you know, we spoke about in not long podcasts about the riots, and we spoke about how, you know, you had that, I think it was the Christian boy, and then there was that killed the 3 kids in Stockport or wherever it was. And it's mental health again. Do you get what I mean? Like, when we look at a lot of these tragedies that happen in the world, is it because someone's exploded? You know, is it a mental health issue? You know, the system that we have today out there, you know, is it looking after them? Is it protecting them? Or is it these people don't want to be protected? They don't want to be looked after. They think they're okay. But yeah, it's a tragic thing. But there's hope. That's the most important thing.
I agree with you. I think it's fair to say that we both agree that mental health is not just a stigma. No. It is a real thing that both of us have experienced in our own ways. But do you think in today's world that the term mental health is thrown around very loosely?
That's a hard one to say, because I just told you that everyone suffers from it.
But do you feel like people are quick to palm a bad trait of theirs off as a mental health?
Well, it's going to be a percentage of people that do that.
Yeah.
You know, they always go back to this thing because they believe that's the reason why the shit is happening in their lives. That's the reason why they believe they can't sustain something. That's the reason why they can't hold on to a relationship or a job, or, you know what I mean? It's just, that's the reason why. It's because of that. It's because of that. Yeah, I get all that. Yeah. People can palm it off and that. And, like... Do
you think people use it as a cop-out?
It can be used as a cop-out, because you just said something just now earlier about, yes, we'll find it very hard if you suffer from schizophrenia to get yourself back onto track. But if you suffer from something like anxiety, depression, or one of these other, you know, I wouldn't say light mental health issues, but not so harsh as schizophrenia or anything related with that you could have a lifestyle change, like what you said, and things could be made a bit easier. Maybe that job could be sustainable, and that relationship could be sustainable. And the things that you keep throwing out in the street, you could maybe hold on to them a little bit more. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, you saying, can people palm off on these things? Yeah, I do believe that. It's a lot of people do.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think, in your opinion, people were born with mental health issues? People can be born with mental health issues.
Right. So look, I'm not gonna lie to you. All right? I'm no professor. I'm no expert. I haven't studied mental health. I've only studied myself, so I know what I'm capable of doing and what I've been through and my experiences. And I always said to myself, I think it's hereditary. It's just what sparks it off. Do you get what I mean? So I'll give you an example. Is it hereditary in bloodline, or is it hereditary in routine? So if you have a mum or a dad that's depressed, and you can see them as growing up as depression, you're more than likely to experience it out of your body, because you're going to feel someone else's pain in that depression.
Your exposure to
You're
it.
exposed to it. You've experienced it, not you. So you will tend to allow your body to get like that, because you know it can get like that because you've experienced it. So do I believe it's hereditary? Do I believe that? I do. But I'm going to confess, when I was coming up, here today, I did put a little 15-minute video on about mental health. And they do say depression, anxiety is around about 80% hereditary. So it does make sense. And there was a lot of things that are hereditary with mental health. It's passed down. It might miss. You understand what I mean? It might not be traumatized to come out. You might be in a happy relationship. But even there again, even some people are in happy relationships, they suffer from these things. Do you get what I mean? So, yeah, do you believe it's hereditary?
Through my own personal experiences, it has led me to research this a little bit too. Not just because we're speaking about this, but because I have in the past. And the likelihood of certain mental health issues, you experiencing them, if your parent has, are quite high. Yeah. It can be hereditary. I do believe, sometimes you're a product of your environment, and certain things you may experienced as a child. Because if I refer back to a podcast that we had where you spoke about certain things of you as a child, now I can't say I experienced anything like that. Yeah. So me personally, I've never experienced, that panic you did. Certain nervous problems you experienced. I can't say that I did experience that for me to say we're alike in that manner. However, later down the line, I came to learn that something that I went through, you also similarly went through. Then I also come to learn that, Mum has had her little moments as well, where, and I do believe that you do take a lot from your parents, even if it's just your, acknowledgement of how they deal and manage with things. It can be a blessing or a curse sometimes. But I do think certain things are hereditary, yeah. Might be, might not. Who really knows? I don't know. I don't know if it's just a mental imbalancement that you're born with, and then it just takes something, like you said, to trigger it. Do we all have something, regardless of what family or, DNA we have, and it just takes a certain trauma to be experienced, or a certain kind of panic, or...
a spark.
Yeah, like does it take a great loss of someone? Does it take, a freak accident or something traumatic to happen for it to just trigger?
Do you know what? I had a panic attack, all right, and it was really weird, and it was the most smallest, quickest panic attack that I had, and it was about 8 years ago, and I was talking to a client. And it was the first time I ever found out that the sun was going to explode. Okay.
That gave you a panic attack. Okay.
And the way he explained it, I was like, what do you mean the sun's going to explode? He goes, yeah, in millions of years' time or whatever, the sun's going to expand and explode. And I was like, but what does that mean? And he explained it to me. When he explained it to me, I was like, what do you mean? That's the end of mankind. That's the end of mankind. And the way he explained it, he panicked me. And I was cutting someone's hair, and my breathing went. I got hot. I sweated. I became a little bit like, oh, I hope you didn't. Why the fuck did you just fucking tell me that, you fucking idiot? Like, I'm cutting hair, mate. I need to get, do you know what I mean? And I said to my client, yeah, mate, I need to go and have a quick wee. And first time I'd ever done that. And I quickly went round, I washed my face through, got through, and I thought, shit. And it played on my mind for quite a lot. It played on my mind for like days. And my panic that I had wasn't as bad as the first time I had that panic. But every time I thought about it, I got a bit like, shit. Yeah. Is it real? Is it true? So that was one of the things that taught me that I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable to myself that can't handle certain things Do you understand what I
Yeah, for
mean?
sure.
And the panic that went through me, and I lost it. I became weak.
Yeah.
Like, it was a bit like being on a plane and someone saying the engines are gone.
Because I think as well, it's one thing to have a borderline panicky thought, and then it's a complete another thing when your body reacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me.
Yeah. I think people often, we do it on a regular basis. You know, you can have a thought that your body doesn't react to, but
You go, do you know what? I'm not going to think about that.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not
And
gonna think about
sometimes you can brush it off and you can
Yeah.
whatever. But if you have ever suffered with panic attacks or experienced a panic attack or just a panic in general, it's that whole, my body now.
that. Weakened.
Yeah, it's a representation of what's going on in my
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
And yeah, it's the strangest thing. Like me personally, I went my whole life never having a panic attack. My whole life. And then, boom, hit 25, had my first panic attack ever. I felt like I was going to die. Like, it was the weirdest thing, the most craziest experience ever.
It sparks.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's
Do you know-
just
do you-
because...
no,
Go on.
do you- what it is, it's your body's done something that you're not in control of.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the whole, like... You know, for a very long time, I enjoyed things like, you know, going and getting drunk. And, you know, as I got older, I'm the complete opposite. I don't like doing anything that makes me not feel like myself. I can have a drink of alcohol, but I won't drink till I get drunk.
Yeah.
I'll just have a drink. Oh, having a drink. Do you go? Oh, that's it.
You want to preserve your sanity.
Yeah, I don't want to wake up in the morning with a hangover.
Yeah.
I don't want to create anything through my own, I don't know, decisions, choices, actions that are going to give me the possibility of feeling anything other than myself.
Right, talking about what you're just talking about just now.
Yeah.
So as much as we're talking about mental health, you know, drugs and alcohol have a lot to play with mental health.
They really do.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I've said it in previous podcasts, but I don't think there's enough campaign, and I don't believe there's enough awareness from governments, councils, or authority showing what damage it's doing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Me personally, I am sick and tired of people glamorizing marijuana.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I understand that in certain cultures, you know, it's something they do. I understand that, you know, certain places it's legalized. Amsterdam, Barcelona, LA, California. I understand this, yeah? But in the UK, I don't understand. I know so many people who have got marijuana-induced psychosis. Yeah, it's a joke. And people are still, it's got stronger.
Yeah.
It's got more. People can smoke more than ever in today's life. And there is no awareness of this.
There's no awareness of it.
Yeah, there's no awareness.
The only awareness there is when it's too late. When you actually go to a psychiatrist, or you go to a doctor, or a GP, or a secure unit, or you go to some sort of drug therapy, and they're saying, yeah, but this is drug. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's just like, why is it too late? I just want to say on here, why is it when you come to the other side, you see that? Why is it when you stop smoking and you clean your blood and you end up finding yourself back and you look back at who you was, why is it when you smoke you couldn't see that?
Yeah, it's like it clouded your perception.
And everyone that smokes cannot see it.
Yeah.
And I say to everyone, test your waters and you'll see. And you'll look back and you're going to go, wow. And that's why you do not want to wait until there is a mental issue arised within yourself when it's too late. You know, and that's why I'm going to be honest, I'm so proud of you. You don't even want to know. Do you want the truth? I'm so proud of you. All right? Because me knowing that when you smoked, I was really unhappy. Didn't matter how much money I had or what cars I drive, I never felt complete. Me now knowing you don't smoke, and me knowing the way you did smoke, there was parts of me going, it's never going to stop. This is going to end in disaster. And when you had your first panic attack, there was part of me that went, this is going to be a wake up call for her. And I shit myself because I hope she comes back from it. And you came back with flying colours, and that's why, as much as I say I'm proud of you, is I see you go through your shit, and to come out of that as well, and you have to soldier through that. That's not a thing that you just come out of one day.
No,
you're not meant to.
No.
If you came out of that one day, you'd have gone back smoking.
Yeah.
All right, and that's why you had to come out of that way. And that's why I say about, you know, drugs and alcohol have a big input into all our lives. And it either seduces us from our mental issues, or it encourages our mental issues. An example is we suffer from it on a daily basis, but if we smoke a bit of weed, it gets rid of it for a bit. Or we drink, it seduces it a little bit. Or if we don't have mental issues and we drink and we smoke, it starts creating mental issues.
For sure.
So it's either one way or another, and you end up in an horrible vicious circle. So as much as you can end up with mental issues hereditary,
you can give yourself these things,
or you can dig yourself a hole with these things. You know, I say to you, we all have mental imbalancements. How we learn to control them is another story. And if you play with narcotics or alcohol or any drug, you know, ecstasy, this, that, whatever, ketamine, whatever you may do, speed, whatever, you are playing with the chemicals of your brain. And then you ask yourself, why am I depressed? Why have I got anxiety? Why have I got this? Well, they're all related to chemicals in your brain. They're not related to your fingernail.
No. I agree completely.
You know, so I do believe, as much as we have a system that I feel like needs to be improved regarding mental health, I think we do need to really reevaluate how we should be putting money out there into awareness of drugs. Big billboards, not billboards of lipsticks and billboards of shampoos and billboards of hair colours on the side of the bus. Put someone on there that's smoking a reefer saying this bloke's in a mental institute. This bloke is on this much medication. Let the younger generation look at it and go, fucking hell.
Because it starts with the younger generation.
It starts with the younger generation.
And if there's any advice I can give anyone that is, you know, of those vulnerable, easily influenced teenage years, it's to just don't waste your time with it.
Don't waste your time with it, yeah.
Yeah, like, honestly, I know as, you know, teenagers, you're experimental, you're a bit rebellious, you know, like you're trying to experience life. But I feel like those decisions you make in those key important years of your life,
most important time of your life,
it really does have a massive contribution to those decisions you make in your adult life. And I feel like it's so sad that, you know, for me, I can remember leaving school and being like, you know what, oh my god, I left school like a year ago, left school 2 years ago. Now I'm at that point where it's like, you know,
I left school 12 years ago.
I left school quite a long time ago, over a decade ago. And, you know, everyone that I went to school with have moved on with their lives, you know. Some are doing really well. Some are married, got children. Some are travelling the world. and some are not doing so good. I'll never forget walking down the high street and seeing someone that I went to school with absolutely not there.
I remember you saying,
talking to whoever was not there, and just God knows what's going on in their head. And it's so sad to see people that you once knew that have changed, but the one common thing that they all have in common is smoking copious amounts of weed. And I do think that it does need to be spoken about more. It's glamorized in music. It's glamorized in certain, it's made to look like, gangsters smoke. It's sexy to smoke. Or it's this and it's that. And it's really not.
There was even stages, I can remember when we was younger, where it says, it stops you from getting cancer.
It's the most unattractive trait.
I can remember
ever.
That.
It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Honestly, the hippies do it. It's like, grow up. Honestly, I don't agree with it. No offense to anyone that smokes. I know everyone reacts differently to different things, but I just don't see nothing good coming from abusing drugs.
I do quite a lot of nurses that work in mental health, like institutes, and there's, I had one in today that he worked in, like, they call it a kids home, like it's an institute where these kids are harm others, and a lot of them suffer from mental health issues. They've got schizophrenia, and there's a mental ward there and everything like that. And he says they're as young as 13 years old, and they are as old as 21 years old. And he said the one thing a lot of them have in common, they smoked so much skunk.
Yeah.
They lost their mind. The skunk thing was just
killed their brain cells.
It was just out of their... and I'm like, really? It was like, mate, it is frightening. Absolutely frightening when you actually look at the reports. You look at their reports, been smoking marijuana since they were 11 years old, been smoking marijuana since they were 12 years old, been smoking marijuana since there's been... been drug induced, been drinking alcohol since this age, it's like, wow, what the fuck is going on here? In today's world, when we can sit there and we can diagnose an illness where we couldn't diagnose it back in the 50s and the 60s, and we're giving these illnesses names now. Examples: depression, anxiety, OCD, ADHD, schizophrenia. We are giving these illnesses names, but we don't deter the reason to get it.
Yeah.
What is the hell going on? This should be worldwide. When I hear about Amsterdam, oh no, they're making tax. If a government can't support a country with the tax that they make now, they don't need marijuana tax. What they need to do is save the children of today and make sure that we have a great future, because these people are going to be looking after us. If I turn around and I say to you now, you're going to jump onto a plane, and you looked at your captain and you realise he had a joint, would you jump on that plane?
Nope.
No? If you was in a court case and you know that the judge himself or the jury had been smoking marijuana, would you want them to be giving you your verdict?
No.
So why would you make it legal? Would you want them to be drinking and give you the verdict?
And if you as a person sat there and said yes,
you're not well.
You're not well.
You're not well. Yeah, so situations like that you put in. If you was at school and you knew your teacher would turn up and he was stoned, would you want to be taught by him? Would you tell your friends? Would you tell your mum, my teacher's stoned? Would you want to go into your GP and you can see your GP has had a whiskey before he's seeing you, or he's had a joint? Would you want him to
operate on you?
Would you want that? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. You want him to have a sane mind. Yeah, it's easy for people that are probably going to be listening. Yeah, but you don't have to smoke it all during the day. That's the problem with skunk. It's not that thing you smoke in the evening anymore.
No.
People smoke it during the day. They think it's the norm, and the more
Function.
you give it... Yeah, and the mental issues that it's creating is frightening. We're talking about mental health. I mean, we're going into drugs because we've both related to it. We both related to it. And anyone out there that is actually watching this, that's got a child that smokes weed, and you can see they're not the child that they used to be, it's because of marijuana. You know what I mean? If then they're smoking weed or they're drinking alcohol, there's going to be loved ones out there that can see differences in their loved ones because of these issues. But when they see them different, he's really short. He snaps. He's this. He's got, he locks himself in his room. He does this. He's starting to suffer from mental issues. You understand? But if there's no awareness, how can he snap out of it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, isn't it, really? And like you said, we have drifted into drugs, but I just think it's important that there are so many social factors.
Yeah, the reason why we latch on to that is because we've both suffered from, and a lot of people that we know have suffered from mental imbalancements, and a lot of it, we more than likely had it before we experienced with drugs, but drugs itself enhanced it and got it out of control for us. That's the reality of it, and that's why we feel passionate about that and spreading the word. It's important. I mean, we should do a fucking campaign on it deep down.
Yeah, trust me.
You know that? I mean, like
it's like in a way I look at, like, you always look at things and you're like, okay, was that meant to happen? So this could happen. And it's, if you never went through what you went through in your life and, come out the other end of it stronger, would I have dealt with things that I dealt with in the right way? Do you get what I mean? Like, you having dealt with that, was you meant to have gone through that so that you could support me going through whatever I went through?
Yeah. This is
whatever
what I said to you.
I went through, have I gone through that so that I'm then able to support my children if 100%. They then happen to go through something like that?
100%.
Because I think that's what's important, because we spoke about the severity of, like, mental health or whatever. But only until you experience a mental health struggle do you realize how resilient you can be. And how strong you can be. Because even still to this day, I still have little waves of anxiety.
I do.
And some days where I'm a little bit like, in my own head or whatever.
I get them every day.
Yeah, but you're able to manage. Do you get what I mean? And you cope and you know your triggers. You know yourself. You learn, and you most importantly know you can overcome it.
Your mum used to suffer with it.
Yeah, you can overcome it. Do you know what I mean? And it's true. It's like, suffering with a mental health issue doesn't always mean you look like you're suffering with a mental health issue.
Yeah.
And to suffer with a mental health issue, it doesn't mean you hear voices or you see things.
No.
It just means that you might feel things a lot deeper than
your thoughts.
Someone else does. Yeah. You might hear your thoughts a lot louder this one particular day. You might worry about something a little bit more, and it has, again, an effect on you. And yeah, I mean, it comes in all different variations, different shapes, sizes, severities, but it is something that is extremely common with men, women, children. Unfortunately, some people don't come out of mental struggles. It can sadly sometimes result in suicide. It can result in isolation. It can lead to crime. There are a lot of bad outcomes from suffering with mental health. And
if there's no support. I do believe family is very important in these stages.
But, if you don't have that support around you, there are places, websites, hotlines, and as cliche as it sounds, there is help out there. So if you yourself find that you are struggling and you happen to stumble upon this podcast, don't deny yourself that opportunity to get help. You do deserve the chance, and there is help out there. At the end of this podcast, I will put up at the end a few places you can seek help, if that's something you feel like you would need.
Okay. There's another. See, look, my job. This is the thing about the job. Every day, I talk to the most amazing people. You don't know half the people I talk to.
Yeah.
Check this one out. I do a guy called David. He's on the hotline of the Samaritans. All right. He is, I think, 70 years old. He's a retired financer, and he goes into prison, and he cancels offenders. He cancels
Young offenders.
20 to 23-year-old young men that are doing lifelong sentences for murder, and he interviews them, and a lot of them, he says, do struggle with mentally. But he says one of the most amazing things that I do is, and he tells me all the stories. He goes, I talk to people on the phone, and he says, I don't really talk, I just listen. I just listen. And you'd always get the odd bloke that would ring up, and he's like, oh no mate, I wanted to talk to someone else, and this David's like, okay, but just, where are you? I'm at home, yeah, but and he goes, mem, an hour and a half later I'm still talking to him, and the person on the other end says to him, I suffer mentally, and a lot of the problem is loneliness as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are lonely. So you can imagine if you don't have family members, and you don't have a support system, and you're not a sort of person that is going to seek help, or you do go to your GP but you don't follow it up. Do you get what I mean? And you're stuck in your own world, and these thoughts and these things just get worse and worse and worse. I mean, one of the biggest things that was a contributor was COVID, the lockdown for 9 months, that created a lot of issues for people. And he said, mem, when I get to the end of the hour and a half, and I can hear the guy goes, do you know what, David, you're an amazing guy because you listen to me. And and it's not the gratitude that David had, but it's just that
presence,
the ears for someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And when David puts the phone down, he said to me, was he going to take his life that night? Do you get what I mean? Was he going to trip out? And if I wasn't there at the end of the phone,
what would have happened?
What would have happened?
And that's the thing, some people's pride doesn't allow them to speak to people. I think that in particular can happen amongst men. I feel like men want to be strong. They want to be perceived as, got everything together, like, not weak, they're strong. But as a result, sometimes they can keep things very bottled up. And it does tend to overflow over time. And that's why I do think it's important that you do talk about your problems. Sometimes when you speak to people as well, it's not about always having the answers for things. It's just about listening and letting someone express themselves, and whether you agree with them or disagree with them, there's the right appropriate way, time and place to give that opinion. But sometimes people just need an ear. They just need to let it out. It's the same, like you could say, some people, they need to have a cry, just relieve themselves. For sure. People get that in many different ways. Might get that going to the gym or whatever it is. But often, sometimes you'd be surprised what a talk can just do. And that's something that I'm very grateful for. I know a lot of the things that I've been through, if I hadn't spoken about them, and I was given a different family to the family I have, and I never spoke about it or never felt like I could talk about it, God knows how I would have dealt with some of these things that I've gone through. But, having the family I have, which I'm extremely grateful for, and being able to talk about these things, it helps in such a massive way. And sometimes you don't realize it until afterward. It's important that when you are suffering with things like anxiety and depression, what you can do is you can often seek validation and reassurance from other people. You seek that you're okay, it's going to be okay. And what one of your goals is to do throughout your journey is to become that person that reassures yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you can't always rely on other people to do that. But when you're weak and you can't be that person for yourself, having someone else there to do that for you, sometimes it's all you need. Do you get what I mean? So yeah, talking about your problems, it really does.
I'll tell you a story. So I can remember previously I spoke about a therapist I used to visit, and I came out of lockdown and I thought I was alright. I did. And I'd go to work and I'd come back out, go to work, come home, go to work, come back. And I was like, something's not right here. Something's not right. I just want to tell you an experience of myself. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this was after even like, this is not even in the book.
Yeah.
All right. So this is something that's happened after. So I've come out of lockdown and I just threw myself back into work, from being at home for 9 months, then going back into work. I just threw myself back into work, and back and forth. But something wasn't right. I just weren't connecting with my clients. Something wasn't right. I don't know what was going on, and I was waking. It just was going on. This whole feeling. I was getting this feeling. And this feeling was getting a little bit worse and worse and worse. And I was becoming a little bit more distant from. And I just became a bit robotic, and I was just like a walking shell. That's all it was, with this little brain inside of this body. And it was just getting worse and worse, and I was getting darker and darker, and my sleeping patterns were getting irregular, and I couldn't sleep that well, and I just kept having this feeling. Then I started thinking about the way I was feeling, and I'm thinking about the way I'm feeling. Now I am, do you get what I mean? I became obsessive with it a little bit, and it got to the stage where I ended up ringing this therapist, and I rang him up. And I said to him, like, this is the situation, this, that, and the other. And I was in a bad way. By that time, for me to ring up someone and say, look, I don't know what I'm doing here. You know what I mean? There's only so much I can talk to my wife. There's only so much I can talk to a friend. There's only so much. I don't want to talk to my mum. I don't want to talk to my brother or my sister. It's just not me. I don't want to worry anyone. I don't want to worry your mum. Then that's how a man is. I don't want to put extra burden on. I don't want this man of a family to feel weak. And I can remember this Sunday morning, I woke up and I told your mum, I said, I'm calling someone. And she was like, all right, you do what you want to do. I was like, okay. So I just sent a message, and he was like, look, have a meeting with me. And he was an unconscious mind therapist. And my problem was it wasn't I was hearing voices or anything like that, but I was really depressed. And I know when I'm depressed, and I know when I'm okay. And I was depressed because my everyday being was I didn't want to go work. I was forcing myself to go to work. I didn't want to do nothing. Yeah, I just wanted to really be in bed. Anyway, this meeting was set up, and it was about 2 weeks. So I'm still carrying on the way I'm carrying on going to work and everything. And there was part of me that was really scared. Like, oh my God, like, by me seeing a therapist now, am I not well? Have I diagnosed myself with something? Have I labelled myself?
Yeah.
Have I opened up a can of worms for myself? Am I going to see this guy, and this guy goes, oh, you need to see me for the rest of your life, once a month or whatever? And seeing this guy wasn't cheap. It cost me £400 a session. It's not a cheap session. And I'm going to say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because sometimes us men, we lose track. We lose reality. We lose our purpose a bit. And sometimes our purpose doesn't mean enough for us. And we go AWOL, we go off key. We just feel like, is this it? And this guy had me in his first session for, I think it was 2 hours. And I've got to admit, this gentleman, he was a bit of a cockney geezer, a bit of like, all right, mate, fucking hell. And part of me was like, oh no, what is this bloke? But then part of me thought, yeah, I'm glad he's like that. He's like one of us. And I'm not going to go through the therapy lesson, but I've got to say, when I walked out of that therapy lesson, I was exhausted, mentally exhausted. I was shaking. I was shaking inside. Like I felt like I was cold, even though it wasn't. I was like, I wanted to get home and talk to your mum and say, look, this is what he said, this, that, and that. But what he did was he said one thing to me. He said, it's all about a filter. Your filter's not good no more. He says, you've got to change that filter. And the only way you change that filter is you've got to wake up in the morning and you've got to meditate for 1 minute. He says, you spend 12 hours a day running around. Is it worth devoting 1 minute? And I was like, yeah. He goes, in that 1 minute, what I want you to do is think about all the things that make you happy and not sad, instead of waking up in the morning and thinking of 10 minutes of all the things that make you sad. And I was like, rah. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is, do I feel shit? Well, yeah. And he said, when you wake up in the morning, feel grateful that you fucking woke up. A lot of people don't wake up. And he put things into perspective for me. And he said to me, what do you want? What do you need? You've got it. And just think about it. And start manifesting it. You've already done it because you have 2 businesses, a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful children. You've got a lovely house. You've got this, that, and the other. So you've got it. You've just come off the road. How long do you stay off that road before you start going crazy? Do you get what I mean? And that's why at that time I know I needed to seek help. Because I had lost your mum at one stage. I'd lost you girls at one stage. I'd lost a house at one stage. I'd lost a business at one stage. I was on my own, a 35-year-old man, back in my mum's room, that I was there when I was 10, 11 years old, looking at the ceiling, thinking, what the fuck has just happened in my life? And I thought, that's not happening again. And I've said to myself, if I'd have gone back to 35 years old and I would have seeked this man, would I have been, do you understand what I'm trying to say? If I would have made that move at 35, what I'd made at 45 years old, would I have lost everything at that time? Even though it was probably a learning lesson, I was grateful that I made that move. So what I'm trying to say is that even though you can be in dire straits, there is help out there. And even though I paid 400 quid for a session, and people go, yeah, but you paid 400 quid a session. There's sessions out there you don't pay no money. There's people out there that want to help, like Dave, the Samaritans, because there was no difference to it. It's just someone who was listening to me, and he just put things in perspective for me. So I could have gone really into detail of what he had done to me in them couple of hours, and what he did was amazing. Absolutely amazing. He blew my mind. And when I walked out, he said, I'll give you 31 days and your whole filter will change. Trust me. And 31 days it did. Because I looked back and I was 10% different to what I was. And if I was 10% different, I'm different. Yeah. And that's how I looked at it. But yeah, is that right what I said?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah? So what it was just trying to explain that even at 45 years old, I went through it. Yeah. And I sought help. And I'm not afraid to seek help. I want everyone to seek help. You understand? You just got to get the right help. That's the reality of it. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. But yeah, anything else you want to touch on, or is that it for today?
No, I think that's it. I think a lot of it is in the book. Yeah. I think mental health as a whole, you know, everyone deals with it and goes through different scenarios and situations. You know, some people don't see it as mental health issues. They just see it as life. Stages, which is fair. And sometimes maybe that's the best way of seeing it sometimes. You know, you're going to traumas and sparks and situations that will ignite internal unconscious layers of trauma deep inside that you will bring it out, and you say to yourself, I can't handle it. Well, you can't handle it. Your brain starts to mask it and gives you symptoms. It's a mental health issue. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you can actually bring these things to the surface and talk about them, you know, I think it makes things a lot easier for you. Like what I said, I mean, initially at the beginning where I said you might think what I'm telling you is weird. Are we all born with these things? Do you know what I mean? Are we all just born with them? They're there, aren't they? So it ain't like they're lying to us. So is it that we've just learned from very, very young to be stimulated and not allow these things to kick in and to interfere? You know, is these just part of our primal instinct? You know, if we was got to go back 3,000-4,000 years time, would we have needed these mental health issues to survive?
For sure.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Are these things that we need? I'm not, obviously schizophrenia is a bit of a harsh one because you're in a different world, but all the other things that you spoke about, you know, like, you know, you talk about depression. Maybe we need depression in our lives. It allows us to make that call and brings us back up. Maybe we need anxiety in our lives because it's that emptiness that creates a fear that makes us make a move. Do you get what I mean? Are these primal instances that we, as modern day people with technology, say we can't mix these things together because they don't work? Is that the true reality of it? Because they exist. And like what I said to you, I don't believe 1 in 4 people have it. I believe everyone has it. You understand? And when they say, is it hereditary, and they've proven it's 80% of people is hereditary, that means it's in everyone. And if time goes on in time, that means if it's 80% of people, that means over time, everyone is going to have it.
Yeah. And that's just what's spoken about.
Some
families are very secretive, you know, they keep their problems to themselves. But one thing I'll always remember, and I think it's possibly one of my favourite sayings, and it was from you. And it was, it's not what you think, it's how you think about it.
Yeah.
And I do think you can apply that to a lot of things in life.
It is. It's a true fact.
Yeah. And it is, you know, like your brain, you think so many different things. Good, bad, some disgusting, some crazy, some like, what the hell?
This is like what I say. Intelligence can be your best friend or your worst nightmare. And when you have a mental health issue... And
you're intelligent, it can be a bit of a bad...
Your intelligence can be your worst enemy. Worst enemy. Definitely. That's why sometimes, like, when people say, I wish I was just thick.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. I get it. Sometimes I wish I was thick.
You're a bit like, what? I don't know.
So, when I just said sometimes I wish I was thick, there's some people had to go, yeah, you are thick.
You are thick. But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right.
But yeah, guys, if you've enjoyed today's podcast, please do click the like button. Share your thoughts and opinions with us. We do love to hear them. Comments are always welcome. If you're not subscribed to the Only Way We News YouTube channel, please do hit the subscribe button. It does only take 1 minute. We hope you're glad to be back with us. We are glad to be back with you.
Tell your mate. Post it on Facebook. Post it on your Instagram. Reshare.
And I mean, if you have no one to speak to, you can talk to us.
Just send a message.
Just send a message.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. But like I said, I will put some websites and contact numbers after our faces have disappeared. So just reach out if you feel the need to. And we will be back next week.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Peace.
Love.
Go on.
And